going to grab some water.
Hey guys, so welcome back to one of my daily lives. Today I've got Luke Buesnel with us from Story League. Mate, who are you?
Who am I? Well, it's a very good question. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and think that myself.
I don't care how are you. I care who are you.
Who am I? I'm a content creator. So I used to be a journalist a very long time ago and went through the political and corporate circuits and did not like that at all. And went out on my own about 3 years ago. So I've run an agency which is focused on copywriting, podcast and video creation for SMEs.
Awesome. So just remind me, how long ago was it that we met? When did we...
Well, you've been there since the early ages of time, I believe. So certainly
yeah,
in terms of
back in the 1970s.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how old I feel some days. But no, literally, you've been there for a very long time. So I wouldn't say you were there right at the very start, but it was...
Very start was real media management.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Oh, God, take me back to those days. That was a media training business, which, look, it worked quite well because I obviously understand journalism and then the politics side of things, but just so difficult to find a consistent market. And yeah, look, it didn't go that well in the end. I don't think it was ever going to turn into a business. And I, back in those days, didn't really know what it took to start and run a business anyway. Hence the arrival of Tristan Wright.
So when we first met, it was actually back in the days when I actually did networking. So now I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of business networking meetings.
Thanks, two of us.
But yeah, but that's how we met, and we've become long-term friends since then. But where were you? Not physically, but where were you when we actually met in your journey, your business journey and your personal journey?
Green would be the way to describe it. Green and rough around the edges. So
you're still rough around the edges.
Yeah, it's true. I went into business with nothing more than an idea, which is where most people start anyway. But as we know, and I'm sure Tristan has mentioned several times before, an idea is not a business. So I was just your typical person who had worked in politics and corporate and saw or learnt what not to do and thought I could have a better solution. So I'm going to then go out on my own, which is exactly what I did. But you learn pretty quickly there that an idea doesn't stand up in the real world of business. And for me, at the time that you and I met, Tristan, I was getting a lot of interest, which was keeping me in the game, but I could never convert them into customers or anything like that. So while I was heartened by the fact that there was that interest bubbling away, which was indicating to me that perhaps maybe I do have something, that something was nothing more than an idea at that particular point. And yeah, look, an idea is not going to get you too far. So you walked in at the right time.
So what was your dream or your idea at that time?
Well, it's a very good question because I didn't know. The idea was I just want to go and make good content for businesses because, and if I go back to that corporate model, we were using an outsourced content creation agency. And they would slug us $30K a year for one blog post a week, and it would come to me and I'd have to rewrite it because it was shit. It was just appallingly bad. It was badly written. There was no idea about what the business or the corporate that I worked for was actually trying to achieve and a whole bunch of other things. So I looked at that and I thought, well, that's ridiculous. Like, I've been a writer for a very long time. I can do it better, and we've actually got a podcast studio and I knew videographers from my time in media as well. So I'm like, well, why don't I pull all three together and off we go, and I don't have to worry about another thing. But of course that's not the case.
So basically your idea was to cut out the middleman and do it yourself.
In a way, yeah, absolutely. You know, I just the driving force behind it was I want to give people good quality content so they can build their brands, they can increase their influence and, you know, target a new audience and then ultimately get more customers and more profit. So, but those sorts of ideas weren't developed out at the initial stages. It was literally let's just go out and do this thing and see how we go. Yeah.
And yeah, and there's lots of brick walls that you were hitting because literally you didn't have direction at the time other than that you wanted to get clients and help them. And so,
yeah, absolutely. Yes. So, but that's part of the process, and we're certainly a lot further down the line now. So it's yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
talking about the process and the journey, give me a 1 minute synopsis of it. What steps have you taken to progress your company?
Well, we've done a lot of work with you there, Tristan, obviously. So big tick because
put
that's
me
what you
aside,
want to hear, right?
No, this is not a pitch
Tristan's
about me,
favourite
mate.
subject, Tristan, right?
This is, oh, geez, you almost had me swearing now. I had to stop. I was about to tell you to F off.
Fair enough. Okay, so for me, look, it started with we can write, we can create podcasts, we can create videos. So I went to market telling people that my messaging was wrong. I'm pretty direct, some might say harsh in the way I sort of approach things. And
your very first email that you sent to me
was truthful but blunt. So you want to explain that?
I sent Luke a video email and reintroducing myself after we caught up, and Luke's response, it wasn't even a shit sandwich, it was just the shit.
So what sort of video content do you call that?
Yeah, pretty much. And I said, well, it got a response from you, didn't it?
And I said, not a good one. But anyway, here we are, so it must have worked. So that was the initial stage of it. Then there was a lot of reworking of the types of content we do. So we've built in things like it's not just SEO blog posts. We do the hero's journey or the business journey, the entrepreneur facing all their battles ultimately to the point why they're best served to attend to their customers. There's thought leadership in there. There's joint venture. So you and referral partners combine for a joint piece of content. So there's many ways in which we've thought about how we can do that. Over the journey, we've started to increase the fact that we don't just give someone a blog post or a podcast or a video. It comes with social media, graphically designed posts, video scripts so they can record elements themselves, e-newsletters, a whole bunch of things. So
you've evolved your offer to what the market needs, as opposed to what you think the market needs.
Yeah, very much so. So we did a lot of work around that, around listening to what the customers are saying to us, because throughout the entire journey, we've onboarded more and more customers. We're growing, excuse me, which is great. So we have had some long-standing customers in that time as well. So we've asked them what it is they think they need, what they look at in the content industry from others, and what they like. So, it's developed into areas that I just did not even think it would go. So, but it's been a very positive thing. And I guess one of the really big changes for us was initially I set up as going to corporates. So we would say, look, we've got the podcast space, which obviously comes with some overhead. So it's generally a corporate budget that can get in there. Same with videographers turning up on location to film things. But then, of course, COVID hit and you weren't allowed to go into a podcast studio or go to someone else's business. So we had to look at ways to rework that. And what we came up with is some online solutions around that. So online podcast recording, online video capture, and then obviously editing it from there. So that has been a godsend for what we're doing, because we're getting a lot more interest in that space now. And we're at a point where corporate, we do still have some on the books. And I'm not saying we won't go after them, but they're not the target customer that we want anymore. It's the SMEs who we can actually get a really good result for. Whereas corporate, every piece of content's got to be approved by compliance teams, and that just takes forever. And I'd rather work with a smaller business, which is focused on getting the job done and building their brand, as opposed to making sure, every single word is ticked off by compliance.
So you've talked about, I guess, the front-end hurdles and the front-end changes you've made to your business, i.e. hurdles being COVID and changes going from one client type to another client. But talk to me about behind the scenes. What's been the biggest hurdle behind the scenes for you? And be honest.
Yep. Staff is one. Staff, when they work, they're great. When they don't work out, not so much. So in terms of staffing, we've had two issues. So finding the right staff member to begin with, but we also had a HR supplier, which was just an absolute disaster. So it very nearly ended up in a legal issue, which we would have won if they'd gone down there because we didn't do anything wrong. But they wouldn't send invoices and then they underpay staff, and then they would send invoices and there'd be 5 in a row and they'd be asking for 20K to be paid in 5 days and all sorts of things. So it was just an epic disaster. But look, in terms of staff members, we've dealt with situations where I've had a potential staff member or potential person approach me directly saying, I love what Story League does. I'm really keen to work with you guys. I reviewed her work and it was excellent. So I had a chat with her and offered her a job a couple of days after that. And she fired back saying, I'm worth a hell of a lot more money than that. And just so you know, I'm also got job offers from other people as well. So I'm like, kind of just went out of my way to get you as part of the team because that's what you said you wanted. So that finding the right people can be a challenge, but as you know now, Tristan, who we have in place is really, really strong, and they're working great. And look, it's there are still areas that we need to work on, but we've put an editor in place who's really helping with that process too, and the buy-in from the staff is what I'm really encouraged by. They know where I want to take Story League, and they know the opportunity that's in front of us, which is quite big. Because the content space is growing like you wouldn't believe. So
I believe it.
Yeah,
so I talk about it all the time.
Good. So that's working really well, and I've been able to get them to do some other things within the business, like manage a lot of the client interactions, which is fantastic because I love my clients, but I don't necessarily want to deal with it every second of the day. So they're not. I hope they're not listening, but so it's there's been a few challenges around staff, and we've had turnover of staff as well. Who one of them, and I'm sure others will resonate with this, but we had the end of year review about how the work year went with them, and they told me they loved it. It was fantastic. It was brilliant. It was great. Looking forward to what the following year brings. And then first week into the new year, I had a video call with one of them. They said, I'm leaving to go back to study. I'm like, okay, this is kind of polar opposite of what you told me just a couple of weeks ago. And then, of course, we've got all these deadlines coming through and no staff member there to be able to deal with it. So that was a bit of a hassle, but you just roll with the punches and your resilience kicks in and you get it done.
So what would you say is the biggest change or improvement that you've implemented within your business? Like what's moved the lever the most within your business?
Yeah, well, this goes directly back to listening to what people are saying. So like our customers and also the leads that we're dealing with. So there's consistent themes that they come up with. So I was going into lead calls, lead meetings initially and saying things like, oh, look, we do any form of content. You just tell us what you need and job done. We'll take care of it for you. And they go, oh, that's really exciting. I'm like, okay, so you let me know what you need. The problem there is they don't necessarily know what they need. So we've then gone away and listened to everything that has been mentioned over the journey, or this and that and whatever else. And so the biggest change and the biggest growth element for us is that we've put in place content packages. So each month a customer will pay a certain fee and they get X amount of deliverables in return. So that's blog posts, that's social media messaging, it can be videos, it can be podcasts, graphic designs, and all sorts as well. So
with a clearly defined outcome and
absolutely
net benefit provided to the prospects.
Absolutely. So they can look at that, and we've got timelines on what it kind of takes to build that online audience as well and build influence. And then obviously when that is ticked into place or kicks into gear, the next stage is to convert them, and then obviously from there that increases your profit as a business owner as well. So we've been able to do that because we've had the case studies and we've listened to what's going on, and we know that when we present a content package that it's going to work. So what it's really done there is it stopped people from not knowing what they don't really know, and they can see an outcome, and they can then also know what they get in return for their spend as well.
So I met Luke as the freelancer that ran Real Media Management. What is Story League, your current company, today?
We're an agency for one, so we're not. I'm not a freelancer. We've got a team of 6, and that's probably going to grow to 7 or 8 in the next couple of weeks. So it's going quite well. We basically, who we are is we're a content creation agency for businesses who have been burnt by, it could be a marketing agency before, or someone who's promised the world and significantly under-delivered in the content space. And quite frankly, they're everywhere. So we suit that middle ground of the SMEs who don't necessarily have 60K to pay a digital marketing agency, but want something that is more consistent and more accurate and more professional than quite often what you can find on a freelancer or one of those sorts of websites.
So when we first started working together, you came in, you wanted to be the middleman. You just wanted to solve a solution. You didn't have a clear direction where you were going. Where is Story League going now?
Look, Story League is well and truly on the way. The content creation industry is worth 11 billion at the moment. By 2030, it's going to be worth 38 billion. So that's massive, and it's a really big growth space. And I truly believe that Story League will be at the top of the tree. So we're just working on our processes right now, getting everything all aligned. But we are the only one, to my knowledge anyway, and I've done a fair bit of research on this, that offers all 3 in-house. So if you want blog writing, you have to go to a copywriting agency. If you want podcast, you have to go to a podcast agency, and same for videos too. We offer all 3 in-house, and I think that's a really strong position for us to be in. So for the way we're going and the things that we're putting in place, there's no reason why we can't just grow and grow.
So you've got a lot more clarity now on the direction that you're heading and what you want to achieve.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's taken time, and I guess it would for most people as well. And look, you go out into business and you've got a dream or an idea of what's possible, but it takes a lot of work to actually get there, which is where most people fall down and disappear back into just a normal sort of job. But it's really exciting to know now that the hard work has been done. There's still a lot to go, obviously, but to have some clear targets in place of what we can actually achieve. And in 20, 30 years or whatever it may be, when I'm looking back on things in life and go, yeah, I did that. I got to the goal that we set. It's an exciting future.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to wrap it up, mate. Is there any last comments that you want to leave with all of our listeners and our viewers?
Just one. Tristan told me to say, make sure you sign up to his business coaching services. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Why did I say that?
Because they work. Because I'm involved in it, and they work. So no, he didn't tell me to say that. I am telling him to say that, or to do that.
Well, while we're at it, mate, can you go and share my sales page with your friends and business colleagues so they can sign up to it? And guys, if you're interested, we're going to drop the link to the sales page so you can learn about my package in